Hey everyone, it's Jonathan from Motorcycology. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Your support is recognized and greatly appreciated, so thanks for that. So today's video, it's effectively part 2 of the C3 Corvette front brake caliper refresh, refurbish, rebuild. So a technical rebuild, I guess, is the most important part, but in my case I wanted to refresh and refurbish these so that they look as close to new as possible, both in function and look, for the C3 Corvette. So this is part 2. This is installing the pistons and the seals and putting the calipers back together so they're ready to go on the Corvette. Part 1, if you haven't seen it, is the deconstruction of these older, gross looking calipers, cleaning them, painting them, and getting them ready to have the new pistons installed. So let's see how it goes. Thanks so much for being here, and let's dive into this video. So here's all the brake stuff that's ready to go. I've got my parts in. They are in this box here, for example. We have the pistons, which are pretty much identical to those ones. You may be able to see some slight differences. They're the same height, but there's different thicknesses for these things. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Here's the other ones. These ones are more similar, I guess. These ones are all over the place. So that one's pretty much identical. So we're good to go. I bought these ones specifically for this caliper set because all of these ones, the pistons are all corroded and I want to be on the safe side. These were about $9 each. So you're looking at 40 bucks just for the pistons. I've cleaned off the caliper bolts. I've cleaned off these mounting bolts that mount onto the steering knuckle, but I've also ordered some new ones as well. So I've ordered 8 of these. They're all going to be brand new. They're all going to be specifically made for these calipers, and they were about $21 for 8 of those with the right lock washers. So sounds a lot, but it's an important piece. They got to go on the car and they have to work well. So put this one back. In here, I just labeled that. I've got the rebuild kits. So in the rebuild kit, there's the number there. You get everything that you need to rebuild one caliper. So you have to buy 2 of these kits, and they're close to $10 each. And once I get building this, I will show you the details of the washers and the caps that need to be pressed in and how to do that. So we'll get into doing that. Also, I got some new brake pads, which will be going in as well. I decided to get ceramic pads. They look like they're the right set, but we'll find out once we move further ahead on that. And I also got some new pins. They look nicer than these ones, and they come with the lock pin in there as well. So that's great. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, brand new ones of these, so they'll look great when they're done. And what else do we need for this here? I'm going to use some STP brake fluid as a lubricant when I'm putting the pistons in and things like that. I'm also going to use a seal press. Other people may use a socket, but I'm going to use a press to press them in, and it's too easy to do that. So I'm going to wait for my 3D printed thing to come out, and we'll see how that works. I wanted to make a tool to help me insert the pistons into the bore of the caliper. So I went on this pretty simple AutoCAD program called Tinkercad, and I made a couple cylinders. This red one represents a solid cylinder, important diameter 51 millimeters, so that's 5.1 centimeters. As far as the height's concerned, not as important. I just did 40 millimeters, which would be 4 centimeters, or just roughly about 1.5 inches or so. The other one, this represents a clear cylinder or a hole. So I just put that on the workspace, and I used some measuring calipers to figure out what the bore size of the brake caliper was. And turns out that as far as the width is concerned, the ideal width is 48.20. So then it was just a matter of placing the clear cylinder inside the solid red cylinder, and that way you have a cylinder sleeve that is represented by the red, and the clear cylinder represents a hole. So this will fit perfectly on the outside of the caliper piston bore center, and then the hole will allow you to insert the piston correctly and easily, and then just pop it into the brake cylinder. So it's a really good tool, and hopefully I'll be able to put the link to this file in the description or something like that. So those of you who have a 3D printer, you can print out this job aid. So here's just the time that it took. I think it probably took about an hour to print this, and this is just the printer getting started, and right after this is going to be a quick time lapse of the build. And that's all I did. So this was the second one that I made. The first one was a little bit small as far as the inside bore, so I wasn't able to actually put the piston in, but I made some minor adjustments to the size, and this particular one is an exact fit. So I couldn't think of a better way to create a useful tool that makes a job way easier. So it's taking advantage of some technology and some tools I had around the house to make something that I needed to help me get this these pistons into the bore of the calipers. So stick around and see how I did that. Once again, for general reference, I'm using this. They're generally pretty good. They have you know, a couple pictures which can be useful. Don't really show the procedure, but they talk about it, and you can read about how to do it. There's some cautionary notes in here, and the other good thing, it provides the torque values to the caliper bolt that connects both sides of the caliper together. And once I'm in there, I'll let you know what the torque values are for that, and I'll probably put it in the description of the video as well. So I'm not doing this verbatim, but it's nice to have references like this that are legitimate and they can help out. So we're back here again. It's been literally a week since I filmed the other stuff. I've got some new parts in, and I'm going to open those things up. I've actually put one of these together, and I'm going to show you how to put them together. So let's open this. I've got a few things in here which should be the new bolts, so let's check that out. Nicely packaged with some environmentally friendly packing material, I guess. And inside this little red bag, so this company always sends stuff in these little red bags, which is kind of cool. So most importantly, we've got these brake caliper mounting bolts with new lock washers, so they're going to replace these old ones here, which is fine. I'm still going to keep these, but I'm going to replace them with these. So let's see what they actually look like. I don't need them all, I just need 4 of them. The other 4 are going to be for the rear brake calipers, which I'll do at a later time. So you can see these look awesome, and didn't necessarily have to replace them, but I got a couple over here with broken washers those are the broken washers from the other caliper ones. So I thought might as well replace them and do it right. So I'm going to keep 2 of these out for that caliper over there. And I'll put these in my parts supply for later. They're already nicely labeled, so pretty good. This has nothing to do with the video. This is a horn relay for the C3 Corvette. I am going to try and fix the horn on that blue Corvette that you guys have seen on the channel. So I'll be doing a video on that. First thing I'm going to do is replace the relay. If that doesn't work, I'm going to replace all the shims and horn mechanisms inside. So there's the horn relay replacement. That'll be coming up on a video really soon. So inside you get a bunch of the valves or the gaskets that are going to control the brake fluid. Here they are, and you'll notice that they are angled on one side there. This side here points into the cylinder or the larger head of the piston. So in other words, it's going to be facing this way, and the reason for that, this is the bottom of the piston. The fluid pushes up on the piston, so with this type of seal, the actual brake fluid pressure gets trapped underneath, and collectively they push up, and it's got a spring on the back that allows it to be spring loaded. So we're going to get around to putting these on. They're really simple to put on. You just wrap them around here, and that's good with that. And then we have the tops as well. So with the tops, they just go on here and you press them in, and I'll show you how to do that as well. Now there should be 2 of these little rings here somewhere. There we go. These rings here, when it's time, just before putting the 2 pieces of the caliper together, these O-rings fit in here, and that's just the fluid transfer holes. They just create a really good seal between the 2 halves. That's all that they are there for. So we can start getting these things put together. So before we get ready to put all this stuff in here, there's a little bit of prep, last minute prep that you want to do on these things. So just as a final cleaning, it's a good thing to take a straight edge razor blade and kind of go along the surfaces here like that and scrape off any corrosion or debris that could be on there. What it does is it allows you to have a good mating surface between both parts. And there's a little bit coming off, not too much, but you can see a little bit. Mainly down on this side here. These ones are actually pretty clean at this point. You can definitely see, like, look. So there is a certain amount of stuff that you can get off. It's just a little bit about preparation to avoid any chances of things not working in the future. The other thing that is necessary is to take some light sandpaper or emery cloth and just lightly rough up the inside of these cylinders here. So the easy thing to do, I'm just using one of these 3M sponges with some very, very fine grit, super, super fine, and I'm just going to go around the insides here. Not to take off any metal, but just to take off any glossing or glazing that has happened in there before. And you want to get some sort of surface that looks like that, nice and fresh, no real glazing from previous use. And once you get it looking like that, you're good to go. It's really just about using your judgment on here. Once all this is done, I like to get some compressed air. This is basically computer or electronic cleaner type of stuff, and just blow out any dirt that could be in here anymore from the sanding. And I'll also blow through the fluid transfer holes as well. These allow the fluid to go through the caliper and out these tiny holes inside here. There's 2 per cylinder. So through here, and then it transfers underneath into here, and then out, and then into the other half. Oh, you could see a lot come out of that one. Yeah, so those are good to go now. I'm going to take this hook thing and just make sure that I have all the stuff that's around here cleaned out as well. It's pretty good, but there is a little bit, so I want to get that nice and down to the bare metal if possible. There we go. So the next thing I have is just the bottom of an old plastic cup that I'm going to use as a tray. And I've got this 3D printed thing that is going to help me insert the pistons into here, which you'll see how it works. And I'd highly recommend using a tool like this opposed to another methodology to do it. I'm going to use as a fluid to lubricate everything while I put it together. I'm just going to use regular brake fluid. It's .3. It really doesn't matter because you're not using too much, but it just helps things slide into place. So I'm going to use some brand new brake fluid, and I'm going to pour some in here, and that's what I'm going to use to lubricate all the stuff. And that's more than enough here. And I'm going to place that up here out of the way. Put the lid back on this one and also put that out of the way as well. So now I'm in the stage where I can start putting these back together. So I'm just going to turn them around here just because it makes sense to me how they look. And let's start putting these seals onto the pistons. So once again, making sure that the wider part of the seal is going to be facing the larger piston, which obviously will go down in the caliper like that. So what I want to do here is just to lubricate this thing up with the brake fluid. So I'm just going to kind of get it oily and slippery with the brake fluid, which is perfect, and then it'll slide on here super easy. So watch. Whoops. So it's in place, and then you just have to do your final adjustments here to get everything seated properly. And it really doesn't take long. You just kind of like run your thumb along it. You'll know when it's in place. It's obvious. A nice tight seal down here, and you can see how now the piston is that much wider. But the challenge is getting it in here. So it's too wide to fit in here. So it's essential that this wider part doesn't get folded back on itself. Let's put it that way. So you need a trick to get that thing in, or a method. A lot of people use a very dull screwdriver, a small dull screwdriver. So you can take something like that and try and push in each lip. It's doable, and kind of go around it that way until you get the lip of that seal folded in. And once they're all kind of folded in, then you can push the cylinder down. But I decided that I'd make this thing and make it easy for me. So you've seen how I 3D printed it, and I do have the 3D print file available. If you guys are interested in it, just let me know, and I'll put it up in the description so you guys can download it. So we've got one done so far. Let's put on the seals on the other ones. Once again, kind of lubricate it up, get it nice and slippery. So it's good to go. Make sure the outer side is facing the larger part of the piston, and then just carefully stick it on like that, and then go around each side here. You can feel it, like I said, kind of click in place, and that's all there is to putting the actual seal or gasket on there. And there's two already done. Lubricate that up, grab your cylinder, make sure that it's facing the outside. You know, and if you do put it on backwards, it's not a big deal if you haven't installed it. Don't install them backwards, or else when you put pressure in the brake system, it's going to leak and not work. There we go. One more to do. Where is that seal? There we go. Same deal. Lubricate it up. Stick it on. Once again, making sure the seal's facing the right way out. There we go. And then just run your thumb along it, and it makes sure that it gets seated properly, which is really important. So that's it as far as, you know, making the pistons work. And you may wonder what this groove is on here. That is going to catch on this thing here when it's in place. So you'll see what I mean when that's done. All right, we're getting ready to put in the piston here now. What I like to do is I'm going to lubricate inside here with the brake fluid. It just keeps everything lubricated and will prevent it rusting in between servicing periods, I guess, between servicing and installation. So you want to lubricate these things up first with the brake fluid. You can see that the cylinder walls, which are the machined stainless steel, are good to go. Then you can grab one of these, grab the spring, make sure that spring goes on like that, and then we're ready to insert it. So I'm going to grab my tool here, which you guys saw me 3D print. You're more than welcome to have the 3D print file. I'll try and make sure that I can somehow hook it up so you can download it if you're interested. Then it's too easy. Like, this thing can slide in here this way, and it will compress this seal just enough. That's perfect. And then now it's loaded, I guess. Then you just have to turn it around and put it in like this, and it should slide in relatively simply. There we go. So that's pretty easy to do it that way. Now we have one done. Let's do the other one. So same process here. I'm going to grab a spring, put the spring on. Now I know that it's loaded up. Put a little bit of lubrication, brake fluid in here. Pop this guy in here. You can see how it compresses it once again, just like that. Then all you have to do is turn it around, line it up, make sure that is as horizontal as possible, and then push it in. There we go. So there is two done, and when those are done, then I just have to put these caps on, which I'll show in a minute. But let's load up the other caliper while we're here. Same process again. I want to put some brake fluid in here. Make sure this is nice and lubricated up, which it is. Grab a piston and a spring, stick the spring on, grab the tool here and lubricate that up once again. Just helps facilitate things sliding in. Whoops. Oh my God. Slide this thing in like so. It's ready to go in, and then just flip it up, find a cylinder, line it up, and stick it in. There's that one in. Perfect. Last one here, same methodology. Grab this, get the spring, stick that on, put some lube on here, fire that in like so, and then just line it up and stick it in. Ah, that one didn't work. Let's try that again. There we go. Good to go. So next part of this process is putting on the tops here, and that keeps everything in place. So I'll show you how to do that, and I'm going to get set up for it. Okay, we're going to get set up to put the retaining caps on, and once again I'm going to lubricate it and just place them over, and then I'll show you how I'm going to press them in. I'm going to use this seal and gasket press, and I've used the right size of press, and that'll just go on here, and then I'm going to hammer it down, and that will put the seal in place. So first of all, let's get these temporarily in place, ready to be hammered in, I suppose. So I'm just going to try and get this thing around the cylinder here. I have this plastic tool here that can definitely help stick it in, although it's not required, that's for sure. So just going to raise this up a little bit higher. Should be a lot easier to do. There we go. It's that easy. Same with this one. Lubricate it up and put this in place. There we go. So you can see how that kind of hits the groove on the piston there. So now I'm going to press them in, and I'll get set up for that in just a second. Let's do these, I guess, while we're here. Once again, all these parts are brand new. I didn't want to have any holes in here, and sometimes you find that, and you want to make sure they don't have holes in there, or you're going to have brake fluid leak out. So same with this one, just like slide it on. Perfect. And the last one for this caliper. Slide that one on. There we go. So everything is in place. All these things need to do is to be hammered in place, which I'm going to get set up and doing that right now. So once again, here's my press, my seal press, and I'm using a fairly large but not very heavy mallet here, and I'm using a couple pieces of wood here just to protect the caliper unit from getting damaged. So all I really want to do is make sure that everything is lined up and in place. So you want things to be in this case horizontal and not off to any distance at all. So that looks relatively square in there, and really it's just a matter of taking your seal, lining it up properly, and you have to depress it manually so that is firm, and then just hold on to it really firm, and then do a couple firm whacks on it. So that should do it, and it has. So that's in here nicely. Check the seal here. Yeah, so that one is in. We'll do the same for the other one here. Hold it down, make sure this is in place. Push down on it, and then 2 good whacks on it. And you can tell when it's seated because it's nice and firm. So with that one, then you can allow this to expand a little bit, and that's it. So I'm going to bring the other one over and we'll do that one as well. So I've got this one here, same idea. Make sure that these are kind of in position as good as possible, and they're not put in non-horizontally, I guess. You want to make sure that they're lined up as good as possible. Push that down a bit. All right, they look good to me. Now I'm going to set it up with the press once again and press them in. So once again, hold this down firmly. 2 good whops. And that one is in. I'll give it one more here. There we go. And let's do this one here at the same time. Once again, take your press, put it in, hold it down fairly firmly. A couple of good hits. That pressed in really well. Now we're back up on the bench here. Everything's pressed in fine. There was no issues. So before you put it together, you just want to check to make sure that you've got the right seal around here, and that's where that lip needs to go in. So just give it a visual inspection there. Everything seems to look great, and same with this one as well. Just do a visual inspection on there. It's a lot easier to fix these things when they are open versus not. So there we go, that looks pretty good. Nice. So now it's time to put these back together, and these are the bolts that put the 2 clamshells together. They need to be torqued at 130 foot-pounds, so I'm not going to be able to do the actual torquing while it's out here, but once it's installed on the Corvette, you need to torque that to 130 foot-pounds. The actual mounting bolts themselves, these are the bolts that would mount the caliper onto the Corvette. These are at 70 foot-pounds, so that's the torque for these things. So let's put it back together. Once again, I'm going to put some brake fluid on these parts before I get them ready to go. So just a little bit of lubrication there. Same here with that. There we go. It's all lubed up. And we have to put those 2 little washers or O-rings in there. So they're over here by my book. Always make sure you put in brand new ones. That way you increase your chance of being successful, I guess. Same with these. They are a perfect fit, as you could expect. Just make sure they're pressed in. There's not much of a recess in these things to put these in, so you just have to be careful about that. And then it's just a matter of lining them up. So this is the top, and you know that because that's where the caliper retaining rod type of thing goes. And for me, I just put these things together like this, and then I'm going to put the bolt in. The bolt goes in from this side. That helps line things up. Very straightforward to put them together. Start getting this one going. Keep this one coming in here. I'm going to tighten it tighter than hand tight, so I'm going to use my wrench here to squeeze them both in. Always making sure that O-ring, which is right down here, stays in place. So here's my wrench here. Just going to get this thing going here. Coming together pretty good. Move this out of the way. Come down and work on this. I like to do them incrementally, slowly tighten both at the same time. There, that's in there pretty well. And that one's in there pretty well as well. I'm going to try and tighten them a little bit more just to make sure that O-ring stays in place. Already put this guy in. This is a new brake bleeder valve. That is too easy. Standard fitting, goes in. So the last thing that I want to do is put the, I'll put these things in too. Don't need them right now, but great place to keep them. Perfect fit. And I mean, you could have got some other bolts from the hardware store, I guess, but I wanted to get ones that are tested and known to be able to take the types of torque and pressure and heat that you're going to experience on your Corvette. So this one is more or less done. Let me get the brake pads here. And for me, because this side here is typically the side that you're going to access more frequently, I'm going to put this pin in this way, and hopefully that will be the right way around. So pretty straightforward. They got to be one of the easier types of brake pads to put in. I'm going to push this back, and same with this. These are Corvette brake pads. Push that back a little bit, and then stick this retaining pin in, which has to make it like super easy to do your change out your brakes. Unfortunately, with this model of Corvette, I don't really drive it that often. Summertime driving at best, so the brakes pads never seem to actually wear out. And let me flip it around. You've got the hole here where you can put the pin. So the pins, you put it in straight side first like this and just slide it in, and that's as easy as it gets. So this caliper is done. I did the other caliper kind of off camera, but when I did it, the camera was out of focus, so I basically made sure that the camera was focused for at least one of those. Let me get the other caliper in. So there you have it. You have the two refurbished, meaning I've cleaned them out and repainted them, calipers, and rebuilt with new parts. Minus, I kept the pistons on these ones, but everything else is new. And on this one, I replaced the pistons because they were beyond what I felt comfortable doing. So that's it. Another thing to point out is this part of the caliper with all the business end as far as the bolts and the bleeder nipple and this thing usually face inboard on the Corvette. Same with this one as well. So with this clip here, the bleeder valve and the bolts are going to be facing inboard on the Corvette, not the outboard. So on the outboard side, you always just get kind of like that smooth look there. And that's it. These are good to go. Hey everyone, that concludes what is a two-part video on the deconstruction and the refurbishing of the C3 Corvette calipers, and then the part 2 video is putting all the new parts together and completing the project with the calipers. So both the calipers are good to go. It wasn't really a very difficult project. You just have to put the time in, especially if you're cleaning. The rest of it is very straightforward. So if you follow the steps on the video, you'll be good to go as far as rebuilding a C3 Corvette caliper. So once again, thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your guys' support out there and your continual interest. So I'm working on the brake lines on the Corvette, which I'll be filming and showing you, and I'm also doing some motorcycle stuff. The next video coming down with the motorcycle is going to be how to take your motorcycle tires off the wheels and then reinstall them, balance them, and then get them back on the motorcycle. So stick around for that if you're into motorcycles. If not, we'll catch you right back here next time for more C3 Corvette videos.